welcome to Art by Flan. Today I'm doing my audio a little bit differently. I'm filming a little bit of an intro first and then we'll get into the actual art because I am doing the style challenge where you take one of your characters or yourself or something and draw it in your style as well as some other styles. Now, I've chosen 9 different styles plus my own, which is 10 styles for my character Maya. And the reason I'm recording this intro first is because I shortened the clips down to about a minute each. So I want to take that full minute to talk about the individual styles. So let's get started. First up, we have a style that is very near and dear to my heart and one a lot of other people have done, and that is Sailor Moon. Now, rather than going for the anime version of Sailor Moon, I went for the manga version of Sailor Moon because I remember in my youth growing up, I had more direct access to the manga than I did the anime. And don't get me wrong, I watched the crap out of the anime, but I remember spending hours upon hours trying to replicate the drawings from the manga. And her style, the artist's style, is very light. It's very airy. It's very girly, for lack of a better term. Her lines are very thin and wispy, and her characters sort of follow that same reflection, and same goes for her coloring. I think most of her pieces were done in watercolor. Unfortunately, I couldn't replicate watercolor in Photoshop, so I just did a base coat for everything. So I wish I would have been better at replicating watercolor, but I was not. So you can see my attempt there, guys. Like I said, a lot of her style has very bold highlights, and it's a very soft coloring because it's mostly done in watercolor. And I'm really happy with how all of these came out, but I especially like this one because, again, I'm probably going to say this several times, if I could go back and show younger me how well I can replicate these styles, she'd be excited, but I think she'd be even more excited about how well her own style has evolved. So yep, the first one is Sailor Moon, and I'm pretty happy with how this one came out. Like I said, I wish I could have done more with the watercolor effect, but hey, I'm pretty okay with this one. Moving on, we have our next style, and I know a lot of people have done Disney, but I didn't see any Don Bluth. Now, if you're not familiar with Don Bluth's work, he is the head artist behind movies like Anastasia and All Dogs Go to Heaven and Titan AE, I think. And he also did All Dogs Go to Heaven, and he had art in a game called Dragon's Lair. And he is easily one of my all-time favorite artists because a lot of his movies I was a huge fan of as a kid, especially Anastasia and Thumbelina. Those were 2 really big influences on my art, and I remember really loving All Dogs Go to Heaven too, but I don't draw a lot of animals. But yeah, so I really wanted to focus on his style, and his coloring style specifically is made for animation, obviously, because that's a lot of what he does, but his women are always so unique, which is something I love, whereas his men all seem like carbon copies of each other, which is hilarious because usually in media it's the other way around. But I really love the way he draws women, and I really love how he does faces, so I really wanted to try and replicate that here for little old Maya. I like how this one came out. I feel like her face could be better. I sourced Daphne from Dragon's Lair for it, but it definitely could be better, I think. And next up, we have another all-time favorite and one a lot of other people have done, and that's the Powerpuff Girls. So Sailor Moon was a big turning point in my life. I got really into Sailor Moon, okay? I'm still really into Sailor Moon, but prior to that, preceding Sailor Moon was the Powerpuff Girls. I thought I was a Powerpuff Girl, and so I definitely had to pay homage to that in this style challenge because it was another big portion of my life. I tried to choose styles that were big portions of my life and influences in my art. And I gotta say, it's incredibly hard to get their eyes right, especially for me at least. I am so impressed with how they managed to not make these girls look like cross-eyed, weird, bug-eyed freaks in every single episode, because I could barely manage to do it for one single picture. Also, they don't have ears, which made it really hard to do the tufts of hair that come in front of Maya's ears, because where the hell do I put them? There's no ears there. How am I supposed to do that? Craig McCracken, tell me how am I supposed to do this? Answer these questions for me. Next, we have another one that a lot of people have done, and that is Tim Burton. I think we all are a little familiar with this style, especially if you had a goth phase in high school or middle school or whatever. And I think almost every artist has. His art style, much like the Sailor Moon manga art style, is very light. A lot of his pictures look like they're done with ballpoint pen, and a lot of his coloring looks like it's done with fast and easy watercolors. Usually his art is concept art for his movies. And so that's what I try to replicate here, that fast, easy ballpoint pen line art. And again, I couldn't do the watercolory thing, so I just did a base coat. But another part of his art is that the colors are very desaturated. He doesn't do a lot of bright, colorful art, so I took Maya's regular coloring and sort of desaturated it a bit to try and make it fit with the spooky aesthetic that Tim Burton is known for. And another really big influence on my life was obviously Tim Burton, because I remember as a child, this is one of my earliest memories, is toddling around with The Nightmare Before Christmas. My mom had pictures of me just lugging that VHS around. I still have that original VHS, and I wouldn't go to anybody's house without that movie. It was like a stuffed animal for me. I loved The Nightmare Before Christmas so much. I still do. It's still one of my all-time favorite movies. Moving on to style number 5, we have one from middle school to high school, and that is Danny Phantom. Oh, I loved that show. I still love that show. I really think Butch Hartman's style hit its peak with this show. A lot of the characters are definitely more dynamic and have more interesting designs than they did in Fairly Odd Parents or any of the other shows he did. But I definitely love Danny Phantom. Still a big fan of the show. Most of this was muscle memory. I didn't have to really look up a reference for it because I just remembered how to do it, because this is literally the closest I've ever come to imitating this style, and I'm so excited. I wish I could go back in time and show younger Danny, hey, you can be one of those big name artists in the future if, you know, the show was still around. But again, really happy with how this one came out. Another really angular, really simple animated style. Butch Hartman is known for having this weird, clunky style that really actually works with thicker outlines and simple and plain colors and design. Not a lot of fabric bending or hair movement in that general direction. But I've always been a fan of his style, and I'm really happy with how this one came out. Style number 6 is another one that a lot of people have done, and that is Adventure Time. Adventure Time holds a really special place in my heart. I remember when Adventure Time started, and I remember how it started as this fun time, happy show, and then you started getting into the deeper episodes with all the lore and stuff. And I remember participating in some of the, get this, draw threads on 4chan, and I met some really cool artists there. But a lot of the draw threads on 4chan were really, really great because you got to see a lot of artists, and believe it or not, people on 4chan were incredibly good about sourcing their artwork. Hard to believe, but that's the case. They would always source their artwork, so I was never afraid to post some of the things I did on there. And one of the bigger projects that I loved was a humanized version of the characters that I ended up collabing with unintentionally with another artist, and his username is Fallen Blue Jr., I think. Fallen Jr. Blue, something like that. And it was called Candies and Zambies, and it was an alternate reality where Adventure Time was a board game, and I did all of the human designs for it, and it was wicked good fun. And you can still see all that stuff in my DeviantArt gallery if you're curious. But he did the original comics. I ended up doing redesigns, and he and I just sort of casually collabed on that kind of stuff. And next is another style that was different. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I said, I picked styles that had a big influence on my childhood and my art, and there was definitely a Yu-Gi-Oh! Phase in my life, so I was really excited to try it out because this is a really bold style. Like in the actual show, most of the scenes are like simplified, animated, thin line kind of stuff, but a lot of the promotional art, some of the more intense scenes of the show have this really thick, dynamic line art, especially around the eyes, and I definitely wanted to try and replicate that. And there's just something, y'all, about Yu-Gi-Oh hair that none of it makes sense. It's all freaking angular and pointy, and there are random dashes in there. It's like, what? Who decided this? Who sat down and made all of these? Why do they look this way? Like, why? None of their hair makes sense. Do you know how hard it is to translate regular person hair into this bloody style? It's nearly impossible because you have to stop thinking in rounds and start thinking in like jagged shapes. That's not always the case because some characters do have pointed and rounded shapes, and it is a nightmare. This whole portion was a nightmare because it was just like figuring out Yu-Gi-Oh hair was, what is it? It is a mystery to me, and it will remain a mystery. I used My Valentine as a reference because I feel like her facial structure was closer to what I wanted to attempt to draw, and I think it came out pretty well. As well as it can, I guess, for trying to imitate Yu-Gi-Oh style. I know there are better artists out there than me who have successfully done it, but damn, this was hard. It's that hair. See, because my natural style leans toward curvy, flowy hair, and this just did not have that. I don't know what this pause is. I think I may have been doing a channel or something. But anyway, moving on to style, what is this, number 8? Yes, I think this is style number 8, and it is Monster High. I love Monster High. If you don't follow me on any other social media, I do collect Monster High dolls. Not as much as I used to, but I certainly still pick up a few here and there. And the style is so cute and so adorable. I had to draw Maya in it, and it came out really, really, really great. I'm really happy with it. I love their big eyes and their big lips and their cute faces and outfits, and it's a perfect thing for me. Like, I remember when Monster High was announced. Yes, I remember when a lot of these things started. That's how old I am. And I was so excited because this is the first time I'd wanted a doll in a long time, because when I was younger I used to play with Barbie dolls, and I loved them religiously. But then when I got, you get older and you stop playing with Barbies, it kind of falls out of fashion. But then 2009, I think it was, I saw like commercials for the Monster High dolls. I thought, these are really stinking cute. And then I found out they had a little zombie girl, and I fell in love. It was Ghoulia. I don't normally like zombies, but Ghoulia was a nerd. She was a geek. She had these knee-high, lace-up Converse heels, and I had to have her, and it started this whole roll of me collecting these dolls. My collection's much smaller now, but it was definitely really big at one time. I purged a couple times during the moves, but I still have all my favorites. In fact, at the time of recording this, I just got the Lady Gaga Monster High crossover doll, and I'm really excited. I love her so much because I love Monster High and I love Lady Gaga, and the two of them together, oh, it's just like heaven for me. Moving on to style number 9, something really easy, something really simple and close to my heart, and that is Animal Crossing. Nothing relaxes me quite like Animal Crossing. I know a lot of people have the same sort of feeling about the game, that it's really simple, it's something you can just come back to whenever you're ready. It's just so calming and so relaxing. I love it. If you're not familiar with Animal Crossing, you play as a human in a town full of animals, and you basically run the town. In the newer incarnation, you do run the town. In the older ones, you're just a villager who happens to do a lot. But in the newer one, you're the mayor of your own town, and you get to make projects and decorate it, and you can interact with your villagers, and you can plant flowers and trees, and you can upgrade your house and buy furniture and fish, and it's just really fun and really, really relaxing. I always like to call it Harvest Moon, but without the marriage and without the farming. Because the only people in your town are animals, and apparently Nintendo doesn't want you to marry animals no matter how much you love them. But yeah, I really love that style, and it's really calm, and it always makes me so happy because it's so simplistic and it was so much fun to do. Just again, I did line art for this one, even though the game itself is more in 3D. I thought about doing it in the lineless style, but I felt like that would stick out too much with all the other line art heavy styles that I had done up until this point. So I did just do a simple drawing, sort of mimicking the character shapes of that. And finally, we're coming to Old Faithful. This is my style. I don't think my style looks very much like any of the other styles, which I'm happy about, obviously. But I don't think you can see much of the inspiration from these other styles in my personal style, because with the style challenge, you're usually doing styles from popular media, and a lot of my style is actually influenced by other artists. I thought about doing another one of these with other artist styles, but I don't know if I would be able to imitate them as well. But yeah, I feel like a lot of my personal style is gathered from styles from other artists, and not like professional media artists, but other personal artists, stuff I see on Instagram and DeviantArt, Tumblr, and things like that. And it's sort of that whole Frankenstein style idea. You see an artist and they draw something and you like the way they draw it and you try to imitate it and you incorporate it into your own art. And it's sort of, like I said, Frankenstein's into your own personal style. And I love that. I love to see people's journey as they learn and they grow and they change and what styles influence them, what artists influence them. It's always a really good time. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this challenge, was not only to challenge myself to draw on these other styles, but to also see if I could see their influence in my personal stuff. And I think you can see a little bit of it. So we're into the final piece now, and you can see a full version of this on my DeviantArt if you're interested. And if you like what you see, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like, tell me what kind of videos you'd like to see in this year, because I'm going to keep making them well into 2017. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye!